Shut up and sit down.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah, Batman!
Our bikes love us and we love them back as we ride through the city by the cars like black on the teeth of the town. We just keep on singing. We're unstoppable.
Oh, hell yeah!
The G&O. Unstoppable kids. Yeah. Get your bike and go.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. One of the most important decisions you will make is to be in a good mood. For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. So, crank it up and be happy, my friend.
Oh, hell yeah, brother. Yee.
Unstoppable kids. Yeah. Get your bike and go. Get your bike and go. Unstoppable papas. Pedal and flow.
All right, so there we go. Good job. Nice effort there. Along with Jake. With Dial Cycling Riders and your Masters leader. We'll be looking for our 1-2-1-2 Masters. Paul first, the young guy Dial Cycling back again. And good ride again, Carter Hayden. Another one of those. Good racing, though. Man, that was exciting. Glad to see folks not give up either, man. You know, you get shelled, it's not a big deal. Finishing, you know, just keep it going. I know what it's like to be shelled.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During. I'm here with Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? I am sitting in the wrong position today.
That's awkward.
I just realized that
Very
you're sitting
weird.
over in.
It's not
It's not even in
feel
Lance's.
natural.
It's not even in Lance's position because Lance would be sitting
over this
on
way.
the other side.
It's wherever Jake put the microphone.
He's in the gray area right now.
Are you feeling a little like romantic?
Uh-huh.
Dr. Lance Hepler.
He's feeling 70.
Doctor.
I feel like we're missing someone.
75% romantic.
We are. Mr. Hepler's not here. He's doing grunt work today.
Yeah, he's sledgehammer.
That man, the videos and photos he was putting up, he basically was a contractor full time this last week, right? Like, I mean, he did his own demo, didn't he?
Yeah, he was doing the demo because, to quote Lance, any monkey can do demo. So that's why he's going out there to do that.
I once did demo. It was fun.
This whole thing with his townhome condos or whatever those things are that burnt down, it's turning out to be quite the little fiasco for him, which is real unfortunate. It's going to be pretty expensive, so he's just trying to mitigate some of the costs.
Did he find a contractor yet?
I don't know. I think maybe.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. He's having a hard time with that. His ride title yesterday was kind of indicative of how difficult it is in this
I think
day
it's
and age.
easier to find an accountant right now than it would be to find a contractor.
Probably. Anyway. All right, so Matt's left. Evan Price.
Ooh, we got some. We are just really creative with our drinks right now. Jake's been so busy he doesn't even have a drink.
You have you don't even have anything caffeinated or super sugary.
I know this.
What's your deal, man?
Tried 5 days of health and see if that helps. No, I'm kidding. I just forgot to grab the Red Bull on the way out.
Yeah, I would love to.
Pamplemousse.
What would happen to you if you were like no caffeine?
Jake, the model of health over here with his clear mind brew doctor.
Kombucha.
And Matt today's a boring day, Matt. You feeling okay?
Kirkland. I'm feeling the Kirkland. You know how I feel about today? Kirkland.
I feel lime. That's how I feel today.
Lime.
Did your sponsor check finally come in?
Oh yeah.
I know. I was expecting him to come in with like a 6-pack for everybody or something.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey, let's jump into some backpedaling real quick. Anybody race here this past week? No,
I
Crickets?
don't think we do anything. No,
there was bike racing this week, but none of us.
Racing.
It was all cyclocross related.
There was, yeah.
Lance would typically talk about that.
Did Paul race? We can pretend like Paul did his
raced
background.
this past week, and he did
How'd Paul
fantastic. He raced in the Cat 1-2 cyclocross on Saturday. Led it on the podium, got third place.
Wow, nice. Way to go, Paul!
Solid. Went out and raced.
Did Robert win that race?
No, I think Felipe Nastrom won that race.
Okay, gotcha.
And then
Robert won something this last weekend.
I'm not sure.
I just saw a podium.
The Sunday race which was down there at the Deschutes Brewery, if I'm not mistaken, down in Bend. I think they called it Jubilee or something like that. It looked awesome. The videos and the pictures I saw were fantastic. Paul raced in the single speeds and ended up winning.
Did he win?
He won.
Paul's on fire.
You want to know what's even more incredible about that?
Yeah.
He actually had to go into the pits for a mechanical. The mechanic who was working the pits was AWOL. Nobody knew where he was at. So Paul, being a mechanic himself, went ahead and fixed his bars because they were slipping, jumped back out there, tracked everybody down, and ended up passing them and getting the win for the single speed class.
Good job, Paul.
And that single speed class has usually got some pretty solid guys, and it's a pretty well attended.
Paul's just like super quiet and humble about this stuff, but it's interesting when you have somebody in the community that's actually that strong. I mean, he's going and winning regional Pacific Northwest races. Like that's a big deal.
It is. And Paul will tell you, like, not all the normal heavy hitters were there. And there are some guys that are stinking fast that weren't there.
It's a fast region for
he's
cross.
Still young.
Still hangs with them relatively well. So good job, Paul. Cool.
Good work, Paul.
Yep.
Keep on carrying the Vancouver community racing.
All right. But anyway, backpedal real quick. Evan, go.
Mine is going to be short because I want to hear about this huge new video from our one and only Matt LeGrand.
I think we talked about it last week.
Did we?
It doesn't
We're
matter.
gonna
I
talk
think
about
it's
it again.
worthy of,
We're gonna talk about it again.
like an update, like breaking news. Matt LeGrand's video went viral.
We have virality.
Our lead out news is just going to be that.
Viralness of a video. Let's see. Let's check some stats for you guys.
Yes, let's check the stats. This is going to be my backpedal.
Video was posted 8 days ago.
And this was the video that Matt did Apple just kill Garmin, I think was the title.
Did the Apple Watch Ultra just kill Garmin? And it got a little bit of flack for clickbaity title.
I think I give people compliments if it's clickbaity enough. I was like, you got me.
If you want to be on YouTube, you
also,
need to.
who gets mad at clickbait anymore? Everything is clickbait.
It's just, it is part of YouTube, guys. Currently at 292,000 views.
Ooh, creeping up on the big 3.
Yeah.
So when are you going to retire?
I'm.
This is your golden goose.
Yeah, I'm retired. This is it. Full-time podcaster now.
There you go.
Now, in 8 days, though, that has become your biggest video of all time,
yeah.
correct?
8 days.
In 8 days.
Oh, my gosh.
What's number 2?
That's a great
945, a Garmin 945 after 100 days, and it was my top video for super long. It's probably 130, 140,000 views on that one.
Wow.
But that was over a 2-year period.
Yeah.
Or more, whatever it is,
Closely
so
followed by the video that we did together, right?
That
like
one is
right on its heels.
right there.
In the hundreds. I think it's top 100 of your 110 videos you've ever made.
The video I did with you did okay. Let me see. One with Ari, 5.7 thousand. One with Evan, what was just Evan.
He's a popular guy.
He is pretty popular. I liked the video that we did. So
it was fun. I thought it was very artsy and very documentary.
2.8 thousand.
There you go.
That's what I want. I mean, it'd be cool to do more like documentary style films, and I didn't do more of that stuff.
And going off of that video, my backpedal was pretty similar to what you saw in that video. Actually, I just did
sat on
reference Matt's video.
Race prep, it was slightly sunnier, and that's about the only difference. But basically,
because we did that in the winter, and it rained on that day that we were doing. We're like, what's it like to train all day
when your season doesn't really end at any point?
Are you ever going to take a little breather, a little break?
I'm feeling really, really good right now.
There's always something with you every time.
But you guys remember even 2-3 years ago when I would go through big blocks of training, I was like, I am really tired right now. Like I feel tired. I want to stop. Like I just don't want to do this right now. I haven't felt that way in like 3-4 months. I feel great. I don't feel the need.
I think maybe some of this your work-life balance is better.
I did a lot better job this year at balancing that and realizing that if you actually want to train 24 plus hours a week, you also have to recover. You can't pretend your way through 24 hours a week. I started to realize the difference between 18 and 20 and 26 is you need to rest more. You cannot force your way into a 26-hour training week. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can. It'll last 2-3 months and then you will be injured.
What's the race in California? La Quinta, or I don't remember.
La Quinta.
Yeah,
La Quinta, and what's the other city, right?
Named after the
Palm
motel.
Springs?
Palm Springs,
Palm Desert?
Yeah, Palm Springs. Yep.
So you have one more race or 2 more races?
I got Augusta this weekend.
Okay, that's right, Augusta.
Yeah, I'm
Wait,
going to
this
Georgia.
weekend?
This weekend. Got a race right now.
You're looking for my brother, right?
Yes. Well, that, and I'm going to ask everybody in the city if they know you. Yeah.
Only
Georgia's basically Alabama, right?
That's true. Same diff.
Yeah.
And
there's like 5 people.
If you find 2 people, there will be 2 people at that race that know me. So that's
good. I'm planning on asking everybody. And you already told me the video mode I got to take the camera in. So
yes. I don't know if you're going to be filming yourself while you're racing or
Matt should go from his best video ever to his worst video ever, which is Evan walks
Evan
around
filming,
Georgia and asks
asking
people if
people.
they know Matt. No B-roll.
and then just like happen to come across my brother. Oh yeah, of course I know him.
I was like,
I know
Matt,
him.
sure.
No, yep. Big Al will be like, yeah, he's my neighbor. He was my neighbor growing up. But yeah, hopefully you run into those guys and maybe have dinner with them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it just you or are you going with Cass?
Well, hopefully I win a paycheck. I get 8th place. I'm joking. That would be a day.
That'd be good.
That'd be a
you
day.
can do that. I think that race
That
got potential.
of all the races that have a. I'm not going to say there are no more soft start lists, but this is not PTO Dallas. That just
it's not
happens.
PTO
So, no.
Dallas, and the swim
not
is
Santa
the
Cruz,
swim is
yeah.
fast enough. That'll help. All the little things can help.
Absolutely.
Who's going with you? Are you going by yourself?
Me and Cassie. And
Okay,
then
cool.
my mom and dad are actually going to come down because we're not seeing them for a while. So it'll be
you're
nice
gonna
to see them.
Is it a quick trip or are you going to be there for a little bit?
3 days, 4 days.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to have time to. Well, see, hopefully, tell my brother to have like coffee with you guys or
Yeah.
whatever.
Give me his number before
Okay.
I leave. Yeah.
Pastries.
Yeah.
Post-race pastries.
Post-race pastries with Matt's brother.
That would be pretty cool.
That's a fun video title, right?
It seems like a good idea. There's this YouTube channel. There's a YouTube account, Post-race pastries. No one knows about it. Mm-hmm. Secret.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty.
I don't know who
it's
runs
pretty,
it.
It's a pretty cool.
I don't know who runs
it's a
it.
pretty cool channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody, please go follow that channel.
Follow
I don't know who runs
Follow it.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell.
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Matt, besides racking up all kinds of views, you had anything
Outside
cool
of
going
being
on this past week?
famous.
Reply to comments. No, I did a massively long day with the Camas cross country team, like 14 hours of dealing with cross kids. And,
Yeah, that's what David was telling us.
I have another one of those days on Saturday. Nike Portland. You've been to that one.
I'm missing that this weekend.
Yeah, you've been to that one before.
Dang it. I love going to that race
So
at Blue Lake.
I'll find
Yeah.
some other races for you to go. So we actually have a race, which I'm going to go. We have a home meet today. So I have,
Okay.
after this, I'm going to Camas High School, setting up the course. Then we race all afternoon, get back home late tonight. It's just so much cross country right now. It's massive.
How many weeks is it?
I don't know.
12
it switches down to varsity only, like mid-October. And so the last like 3 weeks or so is just 14 athletes, basically. Well, something like that. 14 athletes, a couple alternates, but
More manageable?
it's a lot. I mean, it's just like night and day from dealing with, 80, 90 kids to 14. It's just night and day.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. I always, feel a lot of relief when I go to practice and I'm like, you guys know what to do, go do it, and then it's just, dealing with that many kids and that many problems and everyone has something, everyone has an issue in the races and multiple buses to deal with. And it's just a lot of stuff. So
They're calling for you right now. Hear that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear them. I can hear them.
Coach Matt, my heel hurts, but not that much.
Yeah.
But it's only when I don't know. Can I run?
I didn't eat today and I can't.
That's been my favorite lately. No, but I love that towards once the kid's like almost dead and there's like, I don't know why I'm so tired. Like, I guess I didn't eat today. You're like, all right, well, So I think you just figured it out.
I can eat right now a whole bunch of salami. Now probably, and we got to work out.
I got stomach cramps. Should I eat ice cream before practice? I don't know. That was all we had in the car.
Oh, we had the car. It was from a couple days ago.
Is
You get so many questions like that. It's a lot of fun. But
Starbucks Frappuccino a bad idea right before practice?
right before practice. Oh, they do have slushies all the time. I'm like, why do you guys have slushies all the time?
Gotta love the working brain of a
I know.
14 to 17-year-old.
You're like living it right now.
Oh, yeah.
You've got one of those.
Yeah,
at
I mean,
home.
you're literally in that range, right?
And you're
What's
like,
the
there's
what's the
no-
funniest dietary comment you've heard from a kid?
My oldest came home yesterday. She worked.
Yeah.
She's working at a restaurant, and they kept her a little bit later because they're really busy. And so she stayed and she worked. And
Making tips, yeah.
And then it's time for dinner. I'm like, hey, it's time for dinner. Let's go. She comes downstairs. I'm not hungry. I'm like, what do you mean you're not hungry? It's dinner time. It's Sunday. We always have dinner together. Well, I had a bunch of Ritz crackers at 3:00. I'm like, it's 6:30. We're having dinner. You had a bunch of Ritz crackers. I'm like, come on now.
Oh my god.
Sit your butt down. We're having dinner.
I love in her brain that was why she's like, I'm not hungry.
Good.
I had
had
Ritz. Yeah.
Crackers.
The Ritz crackers.
Who eats Ritz
situation.
crackers still? Isn't that like a
I do.
your grandma kind of thing? No.
Yes. No, it
Maybe.
is though.
Yeah.
That's very much like I think I still eat them because that's what was at my grandmother's house when I was a
They're
kid.
good, though. They
So
are
it's always
good.
me. I'm like, you're hungry? Grab a sleeve of Ritz.
Hey, that's the
Oh,
thing. I'm
man.
like, we've got Ritz crackers in the house. That's okay.
That's
never
bomb
mind.
shelter stuff right
And
there.
what's
That is
what-
totally
what's kind of crazy too is where she works. It's a pretty nice restaurant. They make really good food, and she gets to pick like one of like 7 or 8 things, and she gets to basically have that for lunch or dinner or whatever at the end of her shift. They give it to her. There's no charge for that. I'm like, wow, you opted not to have a nice meal instead of coming home and having Ritz crackers.
But admittedly, at that age, if you look at a menu, and I'm like, especially the places that we would go, I look at that menu and be like, I don't even know what this stuff is. I'm just like,
so confused
I'll take a PB&J, please. Do you guys make that?
In her defense, though, she's an old soul and she's very sharp, and she's not a ditz by any means at all. But that was one of those moments like, what are you doing? All right, whatever.
That's purely an age thing. Yeah, that's
teenager brains are so different.
Yeah, expect that from my 13-year-old son, not my 16-year-old daughter. But anyway,
But so biking and swimming, not a ton of running. I did run a lot for
You're
that.
mountain biking a lot because you're at this practice.
Because I'm going to the practice and I'm mountain biking basically every day. And then at the meet, I ran for hours and hours and hours until my Achilles just was like, you can't do that anymore. So that was fun.
Yeah, ultramarathon.
And then
limp a good idea right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna do some ultras.
Jump into an ultra block.
Jump into some ultra blocks. But yeah. So and I'll probably do the same thing on Saturday. But it's like I can't do my Sunday long run, which I know it's like 3 or 4 miles, but still, I can't do that after a Saturday that's brutal.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I'm having fun.
That's good.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I didn't really do much this past week either. So
nothing.
No, I rode on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, I rode with David Goodman yesterday.
We had some okay weather days, right?
Oh yeah, it was a beautiful week. I'm just still
we've had good
nursing
weather.
a stupid leg injury thing that won't go away. So we did our last. We call it the encore ride for the fog hat. It wasn't a formal fog hat. We just everybody started at the same time, and we just went out and did the course. And there was a couple times in there where I probably shouldn't have done what I did. So that's why I'm kind of feeling the love, and that's why I took Friday and Saturday off, and then just did a light trainer session on Sunday. I got to basically just take a few days and just rest.
Is the last flogging done now too?
Yeah, it's done.
Okay, so gotcha.
Yesterday, David Goodman burped his tire. He hit this weird rock in the road, and he burped his tire. I think I just left him, and and no, it's my only chance to drop him, right? Because
wasn't it a coffee ride? That's what Dave was telling me.
Yeah, but I dropped him.
That's right. David tells me this is a coffee ride. Matt's like, should we go out for this threshold ride together?
We're going all out. We're going all out. He hits a rock. That's on him.
Drop him. Yeah,
I'm gonna drop him.
That's a mechanical.
It's mechanical. I got to take full advantage of whenever he has any mistakes and just go.
No outside help. That's an Ironman rule.
I buried myself for the last 3 miles.
He got back out to me after 20 minutes of fixing it.
But yeah, I think it never sealed back up, so he had to call it.
Yeah, he was pretty annoyed by it.
Yeah,
that sucks.
So, tough times.
Yeah,
tough times.
Right on. Let's jump into that whole news thing. We've got a different sportscaster here today. We've got Sir Speedo's over here. Sir Speedo Sportscast.
I'm like the other YouTube Matt LeGrand guy who is on the beach with the Speedo and does the Christmas music.
I love that guy.
That's me.
He's like one of my favorite. He's my favorite YouTuber.
Should we have that guy out?
I feel like he should be on the podcast.
I checked on him. How's he doing?
I think we should check on him because sometimes you got to worry about those guys.
I think his star burned way too bright too early.
Something.
Okay, so
there's some championship races going on.
There is. So the UCI Road World Championship is going on right now, and that
is it all week.
Yes. Okay. So that, and actually I think it's a little longer than a week technically. It started this last Saturday, I believe, and will go all the way till next Sunday. So the road races are a bit, but the big news was the time trials. So this is going to lead into our topic today, but there was a big shock in the men's field, which was the first day, I think, of I think it was the time trials in the first day. Yeah. So the reigning champ was Filippo Ganna. The 2-time reigning champ, actually, I believe, was Filippo Ganna.
Yeah, heavy favorite.
Heavy favorite. Also, in the middle of his training, leading up towards an hour record attempt. So really, in theory, you would think this thing is in the bag for Filippo.
Yeah.
I mean, he is very strong. There are other, in this era, very good time trialists, but a few of them are your GC type guys. So you're not sure where their form is going into this time of year. Remco Evenepoel was there and raced very well. I believe he was on the podium. Matt, do you have the results up? Because I have the winners.
I don't.
I believe Remco was on the podium. You also had Stephen Kung, who was second, who is a pure time trial specialist, very Filippo Ganna-esque rider too. But the winner was Tobias Foss, who I don't think a single human being who was betting anything was going to put money on Tobias Foss from Norway winning.
He was having some sort of conversation with an announcer, and they gave him a 0.03% chance.
It was some crazy
weird.
small chance. Yeah.
It was a weird thing to have commented.
I do think that if you've been paying attention, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, it's not wild that it makes sense as we start to see what's happening in the landscape right now. But in way less shocking news in the women's, Ellen Van Dijk tore the time trial course up. Now, this time trial course Ellen Van Dijk rides very well, in my opinion, on hard courses. Like she can put out a ton of power, but she's going to do well on a course that's like, hey, this is a little longer time trial. There's some lumps here. Like this is tough. And she just crushes. So that's not a surprise. The men's time trial win was a big surprise. That is not who everybody thought was going to be there. And Ghana wasn't even on the podium.
7th place.
7th. Yeah.
He was,
he fell through the floor.
56 seconds slower.
Yeah. So at the end of the time trial, there was a decent hill.
Mm-hmm.
The averages you see these guys put out too are amazing. They're averaging like 31 miles an hour on a course that has hills in it.
Jeez.
Like how? I mean, it's just amazing. But Ghana was within touching distance until that last big spike, and the floor went out from under him. He just did not have this. I mean, Tobias Foss
couldn't carry his momentum.
Time trialed that perfectly.
Yep.
Also, Foss coming into the finish was averaging over 70 kilometers an hour going down that last hill.
Yeah, so he finished with a time of 40 minutes and 2 seconds. And we had Filippo Ganna finished with 40 minutes and 58 seconds. That's a pretty big spread.
That's a huge gap. That's a huge gap.
And then Stephen Kung took second place, and he was at 40 minutes and 5 seconds. So he was
close.
Only 3 seconds off. So that's pretty stinking fast. And then Evan Pohl finished at 40 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yep. So Evan Pohl right now, I think what that shows is, I'm wrong again, Evan Pohl is really, really fit right now. Very, very, very fit.
I was talking with a couple different people about this last week, and it's kind of funny. Everybody they always allude to you.
Oh yeah, because
how you feel. But
I
know that Evan would.
I'm also not the only guy. This guy's very polarized. There's a lot of people. It's not like I'm hating.
One that dislikes
it's not like I'm hating
everyone.
Pogačar, where it's like, why would you hate Pogačar? He's a super nice guy.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are saying that they're not going to put him in the Tour next year. That it's probably another 2 to maybe even 3 years off. How do you feel about that? What do you think?
I think that shows that they know he's still not Pogačar or Vingegaard. Because if he was, well, and that might change after this. They might, after an offseason of training, look at him and be like, no, let's go on the Tour. Like, he's it right now. But I think it's 2 things. I think it's maturity, and I think they realize that he is not the elite climber that a Vingegaard or a Pogačar is just yet.
The thing is,
he's close, but he's not. There's a difference between being Roglic and being Vingegaard and Pogačar right now. And I think that they see Evan Pohl more as Roglic still.
I think the thing is that a 3-week tour like that, anything can happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just like you kind of want to be there to take your chance if something happens, right? Like even if you're...
And who knows, in 3-4 years, he might not be the rider he is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the very tippy top of this sport. Your time there is usually pretty short. Like, I mean, yes, you have the Lance era, you have, the Merckx era, but those are once in a generation type riders. Most of your really good riders, I mean, it's a come and go. It's a 3-4 year period.
I think if you're top 5, you should be there just in case.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
I
like,
agree. If your fitness is like, hey, I think I'm good enough to be top 5, you need to go to the Tour right now
And just
because it might not be there next year.
Well, that reason, and you just never know what's going to happen to those top 2 guys. I mean, we all think that he could be probably 3rd, realistically.
Yeah, I think 3rd is a safe bet.
Anything could happen to the top 2 guys.
Exactly. Somebody can crash.
I don't know.
So
who else is it going to be? I mean, Quick Step has got a pretty
Maybe
solid
4th.
lineup. But who else are they going to take in support for the Tour?
Alaphilippe would be the only
you think
other.
again at 30 years old, just give him another crack at it?
Give him one more crack and then give Evan Pohl might be their plan.
They've always said that he's not truly a GC guy, and it was that 1 year where he just kind of rode out of his mind for that week and a half, and then he kind of fell off. He's more of like a one-day classics guy.
He could be a great
he's a great rider,
team captain.
Oh
team,
yeah, that's the guy you want leading the Tour team. But
I know, but he could be very
super
helpful.
domestic kind of guy.
Super domestic type.
Exactly. And I mean, you need that.
Then you got 2 riders. They still need a. They still
just
need
in case
a lot
something
more
bad
people.
happens. Yeah, you got 2 guys.
Yeah, I think they still need a team around
They're still not Jumbo Visma. No matter what, they're not. The Jumbo Visma is the postal right now for tour teams. They built their team around winning the Tour de France.
Speaking of Jumbo, they had a little bit of a, I don't know, their namesake, their sponsor.
Oh,
Did you hear about what happened? There was like a raid of the CEO of the Jumbo restaurant, not restaurant, but the grocery store chain.
Yeah, the grocery store.
Everybody's like, is there anything nefarious going on here that is affiliated with the team and whatnot? I'm just kind of curious if we're going to see maybe like a name change.
God, I hope that they don't then have to drop that sponsorship. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Cycling does not need big names dropping sponsors. That would be rough. That's a
Bummer.
grocery store?
That's what I thought too. I'm like,
I had no idea.
grocery store?
Yeah,
I'm like, what is Jumbo Visma? I mean, I'm thinking in my head like
teams,
just like some like electronics company or something. What is it?
I always joke about this with like all these Tour de France. We all know the name brand, but like I couldn't tell you what half these companies like. What is Quick Step?
It's a flooring company, isn't it?
Is it? I have no idea.
I think so.
I have no idea.
But what's Edix or what's
Yeah, no idea.
I mean,
EF Dropic. What's that?
I feel like it used to all be like cell companies.
Isn't that something to do with cars?
Yeah, Ineos is something like that. And then I used to think Sky. I used to think that was Sky Vodka.
Same.
It's not apparently.
No,
That's two Ys.
It's a television network.
It's a television network. I used to think that was Sky Vodka for the longest time.
Maybe we need to do that when we go into the thing and talk about like who are these
our next
sponsors?
hot seat
companies.
Our next hot seat should be purely team names. Like, do you know what company this is?
It's gonna be. I'm gonna be like 1 out of 10.
No idea. Yeah.
Crazy.
U.S. Postal Service got that one. Mail.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
that's a good idea.
Last lead out thing. There was PTO Dallas, which is the U.S. Open, is what they have branded it for triathlon. They just had the Canadian Open not too long ago. This was the U.S. Open. Guys who do this sport full time get to race in this and do it well. So you have to be, I think, in the top 50 to get invited. PTO. Yeah. You're making money doing the sport if you got invited to this.
Yep.
Big prize purse, $1 million prize purse.
Eric didn't get invited.
No.
I just won Santa Cruz and he didn't get invited.
I'm not sure if he was in the top 50 or not. I don't know.
He's close.
He's right there.
He might be.
He would have been
in the top 50.
I think he was supposed to go and then denied it because he didn't want to race in the heat, which is smart because it was insanely hot. It was at 2 p.m. and it was like 100 degrees field.
Whatever he did was smart because he won that Santa Cruz, which is much better than getting
a heat stroke
50th at Dallas
and like dying of a heat stroke because it was insanely hot. The women's race was won by Ashley Gentle, who literally ran through the field to win that. Came way off the back behind Taylor Knibb coming out of T2. Taylor Knibb crushed the bike, and then Taylor had kind of fallen apart towards the end of the run, and Ashley caught her and ran straight by her, running a blazing like 104 split, 104 and change, which was, I think, like 540 pace. She was flying out there in that heat.
What was the distance?
It's a weird distance. It's close to a 73, but not quite. So it's like a 10.5 mile run, 51 mile bike, and then a 2.5K swim. So it does favor strong swimmers.
Well, that's probably more reasonable.
Yeah. What, strangely enough, going into the men's race, the race was controlled by the strong bikers who biked from the back of the field all the way through.
But also, I mean, not being a strong swimmer, Sam Long, I think that puts a dent in your chances when you're, what was he, like 2 minutes back or something?
Yeah, but so he was 2.5 minutes back, biked all the way through the field into second place though. This is where,
but you have to work
a lot of matches. He had to use a lot of matches, but I still think he threw down amazingly and ran himself into third place. So stayed with, he got chased down the last like 100 meters by Ditlev.
Okay.
Great battle between those two. We're talking two of the best iron guys for the next 10 years, probably right there is Ditlev and Sam Long, I think. But the winner was Colin Chartier, who just started training with Lionel Sanders and has just started training under the Norwegian coach.
Norwegian method.
He literally goes, coach change this year, boom, straight into winning he's been a pro for a while too, just won his biggest race ever.
By a lot.
And he smoked this. I mean, he ran through that field like it was going out of style. He was crushing it. He did well in the heat. He was the only guy at the finish line too to not just eat it right after. Like he got to that finish line and he's racing Kona too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He got to that finish line and was just like fresh, still walking around, did his interview. Sam Long.
Speaking of Kona, when is our Kona takeover? Do we need to figure that out? Is it gotta be, it's gotta be next week, right?
Probably next week.
We are out of time, right?
Maybe. We'll see.
We're going to see. Josh might be able to do next Monday. We're going to stay tuned for that one. Okay, moving on there.
Okay.
Cool.
That's the next Monday will be the 26th. The race is on October 6th and October 8th.
Yes. Potentially tune in next Monday if you want to hear us incorrectly predict everything that will happen in that race.
So we could record it on the 3rd, but that's just pushing it pretty close. So it's all possible.
Yeah.
It's just because you never know who's going to get drop out of the race, right? Like last
That's
minute.
true. Oh, caveat for everything. It's like the Tour de France, where we do Tour de France picks.
Oh, man.
And then the guy like gets sick right the day before. You're like, oh, God dang it.
All right, so we talked about these results from the Norwegian.
Yes.
That won this whole
Norway.
Yeah, this Tobias Foss, who's Norwegian. What is the Norwegian method? That is our topic for this week.
Yes.
We want to talk about that a little bit more. We've talked about this before in the past. You guys have brought it up with respect to triathlon and running and all that other fun stuff. Let's discuss this a little bit more, because it feels like it's starting to bleed out into more sports, and we want to know more about it, and got some questions for you. So
Yeah. So this was definitely a topic I wanted to bring up, because in the triathlon world right now, I would say media-wise, the most searchable thing right now is what are they calling it, Matt? The Norwegian hype train. Is there like phrase?
That's like
you don't follow the
the
YouTubes
meme.
enough for me,
That's
but
the
that's
meme.
like the meme of it right now. So what basically happened was, there is a family called so the Ingesbrittsens. If anybody follows running here, I know Matt obviously follows running.
That's yeah.
Your gold medalist in the 1500 this last year was a man named Jakob Ingesbritsen, which I might get his age wrong. He's like 20 or 21 years old.
That sounds somewhere.
He is young,
very young. But he's
been fast
superstar
for a while, though.
He's a superstar at 16.
Yes, and he has he's the fastest 16-year-old ever, I think, in the mile.
Yeah.
He ran like 350 mid, I think.
Yeah.
Something absolutely insane. Comes from a pro running family, so his family is professional, but he grew up in the Norwegian Olympic program, basically, and what Norway had started to do. Now, understand that when we're talking winter sports, nobody who comes from a winter sports background would be shocked by, oh, hey, Norway is doing really well right now in summer endurance sports. They have been historically some of the highest VO2 recorded maxes in testing. I think to this day they still hold. There was a young cycling time trialist who had some insane number once. Kid was a Conti pro for a while, but had an insane number. And they started testing a lot of cross-country skiers too.
Cross-country skiing is like
Norway,
Finland. It's like this is the thing that we live for.
Really good. Like those guys all of a sudden.
Downhill skiing and everything. I mean, it's like all the winter Olympic sports.
Yeah,
So
and you saw a culture build. It was kind of like when Kenya came on the running scene.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, this country does this really, really well. I think in winter sports, it's always been that way with Norway, but now we're seeing that all of a sudden with running. We're starting to see it with cycling, and we definitely are seeing it with triathlon right now. Yeah. In triathlon, it's even funny that it's not even the country now. It's everybody in the pro sport is flocking to be coached by these guys.
Yeah.
So even the guys that aren't Norwegian are being coached by the Norwegian program and are doing very, very well.
Would you say it's fairly safe to say the top 2 triathletes in the world
are
from the same city?
Same city and
Norway.
grew up training together. Christian and Gustav, I believe, are the 2 best in the world.
I think that's
I think we could safely say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that
They're training buddies.
they're
They
training
grew up
buddies
together.
Are they clean? I mean, that's what everybody's going to want to know.
I think.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
So
that's we may have to play that more than once.
And this is
on
the question:
podcast.
is like, is the Norwegian program just they're out doping everybody? I don't think so, and the only reason I don't think so is because if they're walking that gray line, they're walking the same gray line everybody is. They document a lot of their lives. A lot. There's a kid.
They do. I actually appreciate that.
There's a kid in their juniors program who literally documented his almost entire U23 development on his YouTube channel. Cedric, I forget his last name. I'll get his last name at some point. But he has a YouTube channel where it's just vlog style. And if they're doping, they're doing it real sneaky. Because that kid is even showing workout structure in their testing. Mm-hmm. He's like vlogging their testing, vlogging like what his training peaks is that week, vlogging like his walk through the hotel and the Olympic Center,
They show
talking
all
to
the
coaches.
lactic testing, all of that stuff.
I've always wondered with his channel, I was like, I wonder if Olav and like the guys that are actually running this Norwegian program ever watch his videos. They're like, man, you are showing way too much right now. Like you need to stop. You need to stop vlogging so much. But it's more the environment that they've created that I think is really special.
What if it was something crazy like genetic doping?
That'd be an awesome story. If they're CRISPRing. Oh my gosh, they're using CRISPR.
Like think about it. Like they did this.
That'd be the coolest.
Let's just say 18 to 20 years ago, all of these athletes would be coming out right now.
You find out that Gustav and Blumenfeld are actually related somehow.
they've got the same.
They all
CRISPR
come from like
gene.
the same. Yeah, they all come from the same
They got
gene.
they got one bit of gene spliced together.
They're somehow all related to the Inga Spritzens too. It's like, yeah, you got the gold medalist, you got the world champion co. They're all brothers.
They all have the same genetic twist to it. Yeah.
Could there be any kind of an environmental like influence on that, like in terms of like the foods that they eat or where they live or the altitudes that they live at or the temperatures that they're exposed to? I mean,
so I think what's happening here, and I get to like put on storytelling hat. We're going to go into the past here. So I've been hyper interested in this over the last, like, I'll say year. So I've done a lot of my own training is kind of reflecting what they're doing. What I follow my own reading and research wise in physiology is really following what is changing in sports science right now for endurance sports. And Norway is really the most vocal about what's changing. But what always happens, it's like textbooks. This has actually been a 20, 30 year story that we're just seeing the fruition of now. Mm-hmm. It's just like we joke with medical textbooks. It's like anytime you're talking to a doctor, he's talking to you what we knew 20 years ago because that's what we learned in school. And textbooks take a while to develop. Same thing in sports science. It takes forever to research this stuff. So what happened is and there's a lot to this story, but from what I've gotten, there was a Norwegian involved with the Olympic program, the track and field program that went to Kenya. This was in the 90s, I believe. And he basically started researching over an entire year what they were doing in Kenya. Because at this time in the 90s, as Matt knows, who was winning a lot of medals in the 90s?
Yeah.
Were the Ethiopians on the scene yet? The Ethiopians were coming on the scene, I believe, at that time. Because Gabriel Selassie would have been winning too at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's Ethiopia has history in running that goes way back to the 70s.
Gotcha.
So it just became so dominant in the 90s.
It
was
like went
overwhelming.
Once again, it was like something that happened 20 years ago. Now it was like at the forefront. Everybody was like, oh, wow, the Kenyans and Ethiopians are dominating everything.
Yeah.
Which they still kind of are to this day.
Absolutely.
I mean, if
go
you
to
look
any major
Olympic
road race,
5K final, you're looking between Kenya and Ethiopia. Half that field's Kenyan and Ethiopian, definitely.
Rift Valley. I mean, it's like on the border there, so it's like you get it. You get that. I mean, this group. So I do think that there's regional advantages.
Yes, and I think that there was this realization that it was just like Jake said, it was an environment that was created. So let's go through let's just talk Kenya specifically as to how they became this. Kipchoge is a great example of this. They come from, generally those elite runners come from very humble beginnings too. So we're talking kids that are adopted into these running programs and running becomes their life. Running is their life.
90% of that group is from a similar genetic pool because it's a tribal situation, but there's
also at altitude.
There's not a lot of money in Rift Valley area.
So a lot of it is rural living. You know, Kipchoge grew up helping his mother as I think she was a farmhand actually, basically.
Yeah.
Had to run products to and from areas too. Running was his life. That was what
his job.
Yeah, his job. School was not that kid's life. He did a ton of running everywhere. Gabriel Selassie's story is similar from the Ethiopian point of view. And you basically have these cultures that develop around. Now, there were European coaches that actually went into these communities. In my opinion, all they did was organize it a little bit because they realized what talent was there. Exactly. And they organized these camps. Very famously, there was an old priest, if you ever saw, who in Kiplagat, I believe, the city Kiplagat. Yeah,
has. I mean, if you
there's documentaries on him.
Back in the days, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's where Rudisha came from. So he was Rudisha's coach.
If you actually hear him chat and stuff like that, he's pretty mellow. He's just like
very mellow.
It's basically you're putting together a school in the right location that is supportive. And I don't think it's that much work.
Beds and food and a group to run with,
dirt
basically.
Track.
Yep.
Here's where you run and this is your ticket out of poverty.
Yes.
And he's had all like just dozens and dozens of world champions have gone through his little Catholic boarding school.
Yep.
And it's just because like
it's a crazy story when you look at it. It really is.
It's quite amazing.
And it created this environment.
Very
and it created this environment where these runners could develop. What is interesting that this Norwegian found was not what you would think. In Western world believed at that time they must be running harder than anybody else. They must be doing some training that's out of this world because they're coming on the world scene and they are just blowing people apart. What he found was, so they're running from a very, very young age in a shocking volume too. You have like 8-year-olds running like 100K a week if they needed to for living.
If you have to. Yeah, it's
literally for living.
10K to school, 10K home.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So it's like,
Yeah.
you do that,
There's
it
your
adds
runner for
up.
the week.
It adds up, yeah.
And what they were finding is they would get these kids into lightly organized running at younger ages. So they do these big group tempo runs.
And
He's talking
they're
about
massive. They take over a whole road.
massive. Yeah. And you got the tut-tut bus with them, basically hand out waters and all that. And they go on.
If you have a good group, which...
Yeah, depends on how sponsored your group is, basically. Right. But yeah, if your group's sponsored by Nike, they were able to. But they have these huge group tempo runs. And let's say at the front of that group, you got the older marathoners up there. And those guys know that they're going world class. You know those guys are going 15, 16 miles at tempo. So what this Norwegian found is, how are they running these runs? Like what's the structure of it? Because he's a very, he comes from Western world exercise science. He's like, okay, how does this... what stimulus are they doing? What he found was they had to get back. So what does that mean? And he words it perfectly. He was like, it meant that they couldn't go to the well every single run. Mm-hmm. They couldn't shell themselves. Because if you're a kid, if you're 12, 13, you did 5K of that tempo, let's say. Right. Because let's say the top marathon is doing 15, 16 miles worth of it. Those kids are running semi within themselves for 5K, and then they realize, crap, I got to get back.
Gotta get home.
I gotta get back. Okay, I'm done now. Like, I'm starting to feel that sensation, like I'm gonna be tired on the way back. Mm-hmm. So from a very young age, they develop this innate sense of where their lactate actually is, like where it sits. Mm. And he started testing them and finding that they process lactate amazingly well, which obviously means, okay, they're gonna be good runners. But what he found was in their training, even in their hard track sets, like Kipchoge very famously does we call it, at least the friends I had called the Kenyan Congo line, when it's like 20 guys, Matt's seen these videos, running 400 repeats, like 20 dudes in a line. Yeah. And you do as many as you were able to until you're tired, and then you stop. But that was very particular. There was the Norwegian guy said he never once saw a Kenyan collapse after a track workout. And he said that's amazing because they're at altitude.
Until you're tired. So you have to know. It's a subjective thing.
You got it. Exactly. Yeah. And they develop that really innate sense at young ages. Yeah. Now what happens is then you do that for 10 years. Okay, you've stayed decently injury-free during those 10 years because you're not going to the well all the time.
Plus, if you think about there's no wearing watches. I mean, you might. Yeah. I mean, there's none of that, right? Like
you maybe got a stopwatch guy, but if you're at the back of that line,
at the track, they got a stopwatch for sure.
Yeah,
maybe your coach does. But
if you're at the back of that line, they're only giving that to the pros.
Yeah. And the distance runners, I mean, they've got to feel like, okay. I mean, they have the massive amount of the pro guys in the front probably have watches and things like that. Yeah. And that's
but probably most of those guys for 5 to 10 years are running.
They don't know how far they ran.
No.
And they don't.
They just know I got to
get
back. Yeah. That's basically it. And they're building up this massive base at young ages. So what he comes back from Kenya, and what he knew at that point is he was like, it's all about the big long-term picture. So we got to take kids young, very young. We can't take an 18, 19-year-old that's been in collegiate programs and probably trained a little differently. We need to be really consistent with how these people train.
And this is if you want to compete at the very tippy top.
Yes.
Now, the same concept, you could let's say somebody's a 30-year-old runner that's just coming into this whole running thing and they've just discovered, or a cyclist or a triathlete or whatever.
Yep.
Same concept.
You can take this method to them. You can. Yeah. And this is, and I actually was just talking with this about somebody where it was like, neat. I'm glad that you've looked at this much and you trying to understand this. Why does that matter to me? It was somebody I coach. Mm-hmm. And I did tell him, I was like, what I'm telling you is we have to gain an innate sense of how much effort you're putting out. Mm-hmm. And we have to know that what you're doing is not going over that threshold frequently. If you're going over that threshold, we're going to pay the price at some point. Mm-hmm. That's when injuries develop. That's when you see mental crashes during training, drops in motivation, big ups and downs.
And there's just less benefit to each workout.
You got it. Exactly. You lose quality.
Your amount of progression is lower than it could be.
Yeah.
Right.
So. And this is the interesting thing is to have this talk with younger Matt would be an interesting one to talk with us about, because it really does go kind of against how track and field. I was just talking with Micah Goff about this actually, with how, so we're taught in Western world track and field, there are going to be some workouts that are just really hard. And all of a sudden you start to realize that, well, I'm doing 2 of those workouts a week, where it just feels like I'm tanked at the end of these workouts. Now, Matt was a special engine because you were able to put out 100-mile weeks pretty consistently for a time period.
Yeah, but the thing to think about is like you're doing, let's say, 100 to 120 miles a week. 10 to 20 miles of that is hard.
Yeah.
So very small percentage.
Yeah.
And when I was at Alabama, that coach was very good at watching us.
That's
and
good.
he would be like...
He also coached Kenyans, though, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
I bet he
just,
had to adapt. Well, I mean, he might have always coached that way, but I wonder if he had to adapt over time.
The majority of the team was Kenyan, and he would just be like, "You're done," and just watching us really closely and being like, "You're done," and just like, no,
this is why
like,
you guys won stuff too.
And I think that's one thing that I want to bring into my own coaching. You know, as I coach these high school kids, is like really being able to watch the kids and be like, "You're sick today."
Yep.
You can see it. You can see it. Like there's a kid on Saturday.
You're
like,
falling apart right
You're
now.
sick today. You're done. Like going past that is counterproductive.
Yep.
And so, I mean, he pulled me. I mean, I'm running with Kenyans, right? Like he pulled me from so many workouts.
Yeah.
It's just like you could be having the workout of your life and be like I remember I did one workout and I think it was 5 or 6 times a mile, all 450, right? And I finished and I felt like $1 million. I can do another one. He's like, no, we're done.
You're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
The worst done. You're done.
But like, you know, and you're happy because you're like, had a good workout, felt good the whole time. No problem tomorrow doing another whatever.
And that's the biggest thing. When you look at how Jakob Ingesbritsen and that family trained and why he's so insanely good right now.
Much of his training.
I've followed his channel a decent amount.
Right.
They've documented that family. It's all in Norwegian, so you got to do the subtitles.
Yeah.
But they've followed that kid since he was like 15 on this channel, very young.
Yeah.
He does to a T what the triathletes are doing right now, and what I assume the cyclists are now doing is it is about volume in the gray area. Which is nuts because does everybody remember? Matt might remember this. What was super popular in triathlon in like 10 years ago, let's say?
Oh,
I know me and Josh, polarized.
Oh, right.
Polarized was everything.
Well, and it's not for nothing. That's not.
Oh, it's
I
not.
feel like it's still a thing.
It's not like polarized is now like, this is our problem in exercise sciences. Whenever we see something new and shiny, we're all like, throw away all the old stuff and it doesn't matter. What the Norwegian method, quote unquote, is actually a recycling of a lot of older adages.
Right.
It really is. But polarized got popular, in my opinion, because it gave you the idea that there's a secret interval structure that you can find that's going to make you better and better and better without realizing that you have to be patient. Polarized was nice for the super shiny thing generation.
Right.
It was like, hey, want to get fast quick? Do polarized training. Because guess what? You will see improvements in like a couple months. But what happens? You are going over, you know, if you're countering the Norwegian method, the polarized training is the exact opposite. It's, hey, let's go to your shelled, like a couple times a week. And then everything else got to be super, super, super easy so you can shell yourself again.
Did you watch the video that Dylan Johnson put out with Dr. Steven Seiler, I think his name is?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
So he was kind of talking about that, and he was talking about the polarized training and talking about how deep, how far into the well you need to go. And his concept was a little bit more in line with the whole Norwegian method. He's like, don't shell yourself. The amount of time that you spend in that completely exhausted phase needs to be
a mental
far
load
left
too.
And one of the other big questions was, when I'm doing my hard interval sets, do I leave myself completely shattered, completely shelled, and leave every last little ounce out there? He's like, no.
Yeah.
You need to pull back, and you need to leave some of that for race day. And let your body's going to acclimate just fine, but you're not going to put yourself in a hole so that you can't complete the rest of your training during the course of the week. So,
and there was a guy on a really, really good podcast where he was talking about how to take the Norwegian method from the elite levels, where at the elite levels, the main goal, like Jakob's main goal is, I want to run kind of hard as much as I humanly possibly can, again, and again. A good example would be, let's say you're going on a college tempo run.
Yep.
I was just talking with Leo about this. He runs for UP because Leo's been injured for a while, and he's trying to take on some of these Norwegian method ideas.
Okay.
And he was like, we get in this group of 6 guys. 2 of those guys we know are about a minute faster than everybody else, and we're all killing ourselves to stay with them. They're running within themselves.
Right.
Those other 4 guys are not running within themselves. Okay, they make it through one of those workouts. Great, cool. Shattered on the next one.
Yeah.
You just lost those out, and now you're scrambling. Okay, because now you're like, big volume dip. Now I got to try to climb back up. Oh, I got an injury. Now you're done. You just threw yourself off the rails. So the Norwegian method, the reason they use lactate testing so much is, he was saying, just like Jake says, you got to know those moments to hold back. In Western, quote, we just didn't develop that way. We did not grow up at 8 years old running 10K a day.
No.
And like knowing this, like we played, but we were not doing what the Kenyans are doing for sure. Even the Norwegians are not. So he was saying that even at these young kids like Gustav and Blumenfeld, when they're taking them young, the Ingespritzen, they still test them young. So they develop this innate sense of where's my LT2?
They can probably tell
Where's
you what
my
their
LT1?
numbers are. Like when they're doing a workout, they're like,
I've even started to get really close to guessing my own.
Oh, really?
So I just had I'm going to brag on myself for a second.
Go.
I just had a workout that showed me that I'm doing this right. I wanted to run, Josh wanted to run a workout that was going to be a little bit above LT2 for him. I wanted to do a workout that was going to be a little bit below. Worked out perfectly. I was like, okay, we'll run together. We're going to run 520 pace like clockwork. Okay, we're just hitting 520s. 1K, 2K, 3K, 2K, 1K. We were measuring lactate on the 2Ks. Okay,
time out. How are you measuring your lactate? Because I know people are going to want to know this.
Yeah, I know. So I have a basically just a measuring tool that I prick my earlobe, and then Josh will squeeze the ear. You get a drop of blood. You put it on the measuring little tape bit.
Yes, sir. You guys are blood brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it gives you a, trust me, we look so suspicious at a track. We're like sitting there like, there's like blood on like a towel right there. You're like, okay, what are these guys doing? But
they're injecting roids into their ears.
That's probably what they think. If you walk in there, you're like, what are you doping? You're like, yeah, nothing. This is so. But so what I have found through my own testing, everybody's LT2. That is threshold. So that's the term whenever anybody's talking about their quote unquote anaerobic threshold. I won't go into the nomenclature that I think anaerobic is a poor word to use for, but it's threshold. LT2, let's say. That's when your lactate starts to accumulate at a rate that you can't clear it. That's when things get hard and you are not able to reconcile that hard. You cannot hold this effort for much longer.
There's other physiological changes. Your breathing changes, your heart rate changes at like a specific spikes that you can see.
Yep. And there's literally charts that when I was in the lab in undergrad and actually looking at this stuff, there's literally a inflection in that.
Just to go back to the testing kit that you guys are doing. So you said you prick your ear, you get a drop of blood. Is this something that people can buy? Is it
oh yeah.
Okay. And
anybody could use this.
And how much does this cost? It's the strips that cost a lot of money. It's not the testing.
The strips.
piece.
So we got to replace the strips usually once every couple months. I think the strips go for like $20 or $30, and I think the unit itself's like $100. Okay. But there's a wide price range on these I've seen.
Right.
Too.
Are some better than others?
That's a great question. I haven't looked at enough of I know the one that we guys called the Edge, and it works fine for us. I'd be a little cognizant of one that's really cheap.
How quickly does the reader give you results?
10 seconds, I think.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Yep.
You know what'd be interesting is like you have continuous blood glucose monitors. It would be super.
Yes.
Does anyone make something
We've
like
talked
that?
about this. No, but I want somebody to.
Come on, someone. This is like a no-brainer.
That technology might be out there already, and I bet, man,
the Norwegians have
dude,
it.
If I was Mikel Eden right now, I'd be like, yep, we are making this right now, and I'm retiring because we are going to sell this to every triathlete who wants to use this.
Yeah. It seems like a straightforward.
It's nice to have a buddy during this testing. You can't. Ari does it on his own. Good for him.
I saw him do that.
I don't have the dexterity to do it on my own.
You could do it.
Does it have to be your earlobe? Can you prick your finger?
You can. I don't because of swimming. I have to be able to feel the water well, and your fingertips kind of numb for a day if you do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of triathletes doing yours.
I bet you could have a continuous glucose monitor built on the arm and that just does lactate too.
You could.
I know someone could do this. All right, we need to do this.
We need to do this actually.
$1 million idea.
This is the retirement plan.
Well, except for someone's already done it, and they're just like quietly haven't announced it yet.
Exactly. So how this went into the structure of this is the Norwegian method in practice. So Matt, I'll describe this set to you because young Matt and young Evan would have handled this set differently.
Sure.
We start at 520 that first 1K. Feel fine. I'm working into it. I'm a triathlete. I'm a little fatigued. So I'm like, legs feel a little stiff. 2K, get to the end of it. I measure, I'm 3.3 millimoles. That is my LT2. Literally from all the averages I've taken, no lie, 3.3 is actually my LT2 that I have guesstimated. Let's give me a plus or minus 0.2.
Sure.
3.3 basically round the dot. I'm like, cool. But I started to feel good. So I'm feeling good at 3.3. In my head, I know now that's my LT2. I cannot go above this effort now. We're staying there. Younger me would have said, I feel kind of good. I'm going to push this 3K. Okay. So we run this 3K now. I stay dead on 520 again, feeling even better now. Okay. Dead on 520. We go into the 2K, run in 520 again, dead on. Take the measurement again, 2.2.
Oh.
So what that showed is my body now at that effort, my lactate shuttle, which is
Yes.
basically your body's physiological process of processing lactate back into energy.
There's some very interesting pieces to that.
There's some very interesting. Actually, this is the lactate shuttle could be a whole other
lactate shuttle.
dive.
It's like maybe
That could be a
might
dive.
be like the difference between talent and non-talent.
and why VO2
athletes.
max only matters a little bit.
Yeah,
Lactate
yeah.
shuttles, this is why Lance Armstrong was amazing, is lactate
Yes,
shuttle.
yes.
So dropped, which is awesome. I run that next 1K. We come through the 800 and I feel fine still running 520. Like fine, and decide to close that 200 fast just to stride the legs out. Feel absolutely great. Get to the end of that workout, rest for a little bit, eat, jump on the bike, and do a quality like 3-hour bike session. Younger me, and if I was not training by what the Norwegian method is showing us, I would have felt good at that 3K, pushed hard, probably been pretty tanked at the end of that track session, garbage bike workout.
Yeah.
Run the next day is going to be tough. Legs are going to be hurting, all that. That is how you take what the Norwegians are doing right now and boil it down to simplicity.
I think there's more to their method
There
too.
is.
They're doing. Have you ever read like Arthur Lynyard's stuff?
Yeah, actually, I did.
That would be something that we
not
would
all of his, but I've been
really
starting
enjoy.
to dive.
I think
Yeah.
because it's the same kind of concept where very similar to Norwegians, you have New Zealand, which is just this like tiny little country, and you have all
Hey,
these
great
Olympians
runners.
come through
Great
there,
runners out of New
right?
Zealand.
And like,
Yeah.
what's going on in New Zealand? And they're all coached under the same person. They're all from like the similar area. It's like very
Yeah.
similar to what's going on in Norway, except for this happened 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And this one coach was like,
They were winning 5K, 10K medals at that time, weren't they?
800.
Yeah.
They were winning everything. And so I think it's just one of those things where it's like, it basically comes down to lactate training works.
Yes.
And he was doing more like,
It's the
you
most
have to build
accurate
your,
measure we have right now. Whether you look at like heart rate, because there's
Right.
so many more variables that go into it. Lactate does seem to be the one that once you find that person's specific
Yeah.
ranges, it's a pretty darn consistent measure. Like
for
it's
him,
pretty,
the
it's
way
pretty
he
consistent.
describes it is like, you have to build aerobic capacity.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's having 800-meter runners run 18-mile long runs.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yep.
it's just like stuff like that. And it's like you build up these young athletes
Yep.
again, and you develop that aerobic capacity, and then they can run extremely well.
Yeah.
That was running in the 70s.
Yep. And you can
60s,
build
70s
and you can
probably.
build that aerobic capacity when you're not trying to train polarized.
Right.
Always think of that is the one thing from this talk, and I'm starting to realize even with my own coaching, is I'm trying to pull people away from thinking that polarized is the way I got to go, because I see a lot of burnout from
It
it.
depends on if your
Depends on the person and
description
all
of polarized is go to the well, shag jog the next day. Like,
Zone 1, Zone 2 to Zone 5.
I think that your concept of say like go just below L2 is a very valuable location of training.
And then also finding your LT1, which is that effort that is it's funny how the gray zone got a bad name for a while. It's like never train the gray zone. The Norwegian method is saying
orange theory.
spend a lot of time in the gray zone is actually what the Norwegian, but it's saying your LT1 is where your body starts to accumulate a little bit of lactate. That is what they're finding is where they build up a ton of their volume, which is why a guy like Jakob Ingebrigtsen, or a great example is, I was looking at the Norwegian cycling program. They have a really specific range of watts that they want on their aerobic rides, like really specific,
really?
actually. And the reason is because they don't want to be going too easy. And of course, they don't want to be going too hard on those base rides, but they want to be getting the most value out of that 5-hour long
So
run.
let's say
that
their
they can
FTP is probably
ride.
like 350, and they're like, oh, you're going to spend a ton of,
240.
ton of time at 220,
right
240.
at 220, 240. You're just
Somewhere in
sitting
there.
right
Spend
there.
a lot of time there.
Yep.
Zone 2-ish kind of
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
And not 180. They'd be really specific. They're like, no, we're too easy. Unless you feel trashed. Like
Yeah.
maybe once a week they're doing that.
But the thing is to not feel trashed.
That's the goal.
Like the whole plan.
Exactly. And that's even what I find with myself is it's hard not to, because it is a big bolus of training. Yeah.
Yeah. And they do a lot of volume.
They do. They do a lot of volume. So I think when you're talking, how does this apply to me? It's know where your two thresholds are. Start to get mental checks where those are. Don't complicate it with 5 zones. Nobody knows 5 zones. 5 zones is ridiculous.
Can somebody determine where their L2 is going to be at without the ability to test?
There's a t-shirt. No, yeah, without
shirt that
testing.
we used was pretty
No,
cool.
so actually I was looking at a really cool study where they took lactate measures and they wanted people to guess if they were over or under LT1. And they really described and educated these people what LT1 meant. What they found was the best cue was, can you talk?
Yeah.
If you could talk, You were now they called it strained conversation in the study. So it was not, can you talk like we are right now? If I was on the phone with Jake, he'd be able to tell that I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like this. Okay, you know, a little bit.
You can still hold a conversation.
But you can still hold a conversation, and mentally you can still engage in a conversation, which was actually a cue that they were using in the study. Because what that shows is your body is processing whatever lactate is being produced. It is not accumulating at any rate, and your mind is not having to focus on the effort intensely.
Yeah.
So it is a zone out conversational pace, but not if you know, if your FTP is 200 watts, you're pushing 80, you're not doing anything. Like, make your time more valuable would be my suggestion. Is, you know that you're a busy person. You got 1 hour. This is how even Cassie, we've been training Cassie this ways. We have found roughly what her LT1 is. At first, it was tough for her to really hold that for 45 minutes because you're kind of working, especially after a long work day. But if you know you only have an hour, get some quality out of that. Know that today's an aerobic ride. We're going to ride right at what I think my LT1 is. And it'll take some time to find. It will.
Yeah.
And then I think that they're saying, I can't remember, they say something like the Norwegians, like conversation with a push.
Yeah.
Or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I think that was what they
That's why I
This
love
is
that
a lot
term.
of stuff. I
love
really
that term,
interesting.
strained conversation.
Yeah.
I like that.
Strained
I like
conversation.
strained. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really dug into this before, so this is really insightful. It's interesting to listen to this, but a lot of the stuff that you're saying is stuff that I've heard for many years. Of like, this is the, like, when you're working and you want to be in this zone, that blue collar zone 2, go out there, do the work, put in all the hours, just work. A lot of times it's like, it's, you know, before heart rate monitor or before power meters, it was heart rate monitors. And it was always like, you need to be able to still maintain a conversation. Like, if you're having to stop and take a breath in a sentence, you're probably working a little bit too hard. Back off a little bit. And for me, it was like, all right, I knew exactly what that heart rate zone was. And, you know, you wanted to stay there and you didn't want to spike it. You didn't want to, you know, like, be too easy and, you know, push yourself. Exactly. A little push. So this all makes a lot of sense.
And it's good because I think that as you, especially in cycling, as somebody's been cycling longer and longer, especially if you do group rides, you actually get a really good sense just in group ride culture of what that is. I think younger runners get a good sense of that too, because if they run on a high school team, let's say they're running with friends. And you could, Matt could probably ride his mountain bike in a group of 10 kids and know who's LT1 and who's a little over. Who's that kid who's on the back who's not talking at all. He's struggling a little bit and looks like he's pushing a little bit too much.
Right. Well, so since we don't have a ton of time today, we need to wrap this up pretty soon. And there's a couple of people who are cyclists that listen to this podcast. Let's just say, for sake of an easy number to work with, 10 hours a week. How would you structure a 10-hour week for a cyclist if they wanted to use this method to get faster and stronger on the bike? What would that look like for a cyclist?
So this is actually an easier question for me than a triathlete, because even in my own coaching, it's building this through triathlon is very complex. Cycling's nice because what the 80-20 rule I actually think is a stretch. 20% is a lot of LT2 work at first. That's what you want to build up to. But what I think is a good idea
might work for a cyclist at 10 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, like 2 hours of LT2 work though is going to be a lot to start with.
So for a cyclist, what is an LT2?
So
L2.
LT2. That's actually a great question because I don't think FTP is a great guess on that. It's close. It's close. I think almost always, I'll say 95% of the time, your LT2 is actually going to be under your FTP. FTP, I think, is a pretty high guesstimate on power. And let's be honest,
close though.
It's ballpark. But this is, so what FTP is assuming is that person has the fitness and ability to lactate shuttle for an hour. That's a long time.
It is.
I mean, and let's all be honest. I know what I say my FTP is. Everybody heard this say, well, could you hold your FTP for an hour right now, do you think?
No.
My guess mates, I know
no,
I could.
It hurts.
I'd be dead. I'd be
so
smoked.
do you think that 95% is probably too generous of a number, that it's a lower percentage?
Yeah, I think it's closer to 85 to 88 for most people.
Right to me.
And that's just from enough people I'm coaching, seeing how they respond to certain intervals. I had to bring those numbers down over time because I was like, I'm not smoking it. Like, my goal is to go Norwegian method. I'm not trying to smoke these people in their 2 to 3 minute intervals.
Sure.
And if you're doing your FTP intervals and you're like, man, 2-3 minutes in, that felt hard, that's not your LT2 then. You're accumulating lactate well beyond that 3.3 mark then. You're probably in the 5s or 6s. That's when it starts to feel hard. Like, hard is north of 5 millimoles in my opinion. So what you should be doing. Now, this does not mean that you don't do intervals that are higher watts, but you got to understand you don't do them every single week. If you have a 3-month block, 2 to 4 weeks of that should be tough.
I think, okay, so here's my weird 2 cents on this. I think it depends on your age because recovery for younger high school kids,
much faster.
Gosh, they
Much faster.
can just bounce back from anything.
Yeah. But even those kids, I think still, and you'd probably agree with this, a lot of coaches overstretch, I think still. Even with those kids, they're like,
yeah.
we're going to race 3 times a week and do a hard workout. You're like,
here's what's crazy is we don't we have, this is this week for me.
Yeah.
Like, we have a race today. We don't have any control over the coach. Like our school doesn't have any control.
They're gonna go all out,
so
yeah.
I can pull some kids out. Like I can take some of the varsity kids out of the race, but like I can't take everyone out of the race
No, you
because
got it.
we're racing.
yeah.
And
So-
and then we have another race on Saturday.
This
It's a
goes
lot.
into the cycling season well. Let's say that
yeah.
let's say you're Lance.
Let's say Lance. Lance is a perfect example.
Let's talk
He's
Lance.
not here.
Let's say you're racing 3 times that week.
Yeah.
3 times. Do you think his watts are going over his LT2?
Oh,
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be shocked if they weren't. So you got to look at your year. Is your goal bolus of racing? If your goal is bolus of racing, everything that is not a race is easy.
yeah.
LT1.
Could work for Lance.
Could.
Because he was
Could.
racing so much.
You could maybe survive a race season off that. So I would say you find your LT1. Let's say Lance's LT1 is 200 to 210. I would say, Lance, if you got 10 hours this week, we know 3 of it's going to be racing. 5 of those 7 hours, let's say, roughly around 3/4 of it at least, is going to be in that LT1 range. And the other 2 hours is spinning. Like just move the bicycle and that's it. Or don't ride.
Like a monkey.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is where look at your season and you know that if you already have built-in LT2 work, which is going to be race day, you can't be throwing in another interval workout into there. That's the 3-4 workouts in a week. Cool, that might last for a month and you'll probably get a big grab in fitness. You probably feel great. If you ever saw Dylan's video on blocked periodization,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, you can get those
You'll feel
big peaks.
Oh yeah,
from-
you'll feel really good.
You can do
But
what are those? What is it called? The
block periodization, which is
there's another
reverse block periodization is another one. But yeah, it's like 4 hard workouts in a week, like really
Yes.
hard. Yeah, you're going to get a big bump in fitness. But
short term.
if you're if you're talking off this method, and this is what I'm trying to convince more and more people I'm coaching is I don't want to actually see those really big improvements in fitness in short time periods. I want to see you stay healthy for 9 months. And by the end of that 9 months, you don't need an off season. Not that I say like, hey, we're not taking off season because go on a vacation, enjoy the kids, like do unstructured stuff. But if you get to the end of your season, whether it's triathlon, running, or cycling, and you were like, I am dead, smoked, done, you need to look at how you trained that year and be like, this isn't sustainable. This you should never get to that point. And that is, I think, the Norwegian method, even though I know some people look at it as this marketing, we're like, oh, this is only for the elites. It's actually more approachable for the general population because it's showing you that you don't need
Go mellow.
You don't need to kill yourself all the time. You do not. Like, find where your thresholds are and respect them. That is what the Kenyans have done, and it's clearly worked for them for a long time. And I'm not saying every Kenyan does or every Norwegian does this. It's the ones who are successful seem to be doing this, and we need to listen.
Let's just peel back this onion just a little bit more in terms of thresholds and intervals. Can you define what a Norwegian interval would look like? Are we talking about like a 20-minute
Actually,
interval?
clear on these, yeah.
Are we talking about like 30-second,
They're pretty
like maximal?
long.
I mean,
They're pretty long,
Yeah.
actually. So if you were doing LT, I'll give you an example of a workout I just did. I like to build into LT2s because it's more realistic into how I time trial usually. So I would do 15 minutes at my LT1, just above my LT1 actually. So let's say for me, that's 260 watts. Okay. And let's say my FTP, just for people who I know if we're talking FTP terms, is 340, 350 is where I'm sitting right now. So just above my LT1 is going to be in the 260s. So I'm going to hold that for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to ramp up to 5 minutes at 305. And then I'm going to do 1 minute right at my LT2, which for me, I think is 330.
okay.
Roughly. So let's say that my FTP is 350 is what Zwift tells me. I think my LT2 is closer to 330 because that feels like something I could hold for like 10, 15 minutes if I really wanted to, but it's going to be work. It's going to be very hard. So I want to be under that. So really like 325 to 330. I really want to be under that at the end of that. Then I repeat that and I repeat it again. So I repeated that 6 times in that workout. So the work of the workout's 2 hours. Now let's say you're somebody who does not train 26 hours a week, 30 minutes of that.
Okay.
Okay. If you train 10 hours a week, let's say you're a third of what I would do in that volume. So if that's an hour and a half workout for me or in that range, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And now here's the cool part with this is, and this is what I do for Cassie too, is an LT1 workout is great. Because you start out, let's say your LT1 is 180 watts or whatever is what you find. You're like, that's when I'm strained conversationally. Start at 30 minutes, then 2 weeks later you bump up to 40 minutes, then 50.
Just layering it up.
Then an hour. And if you know that you have 12 weeks to lead up into race season, by right before race season, you weren't doing crazy intervals. You weren't killing yourself. But now for 90 minutes, you can hold that base wattage. And what feels good during a bike race? Having really good base wattage. You can hold in the Peloton and feel like you have more matches.
Yeah.
We always think that building matches is always, I got to work my top end all day. It's like, no. Having matches is you have, just like Matt said, with really good runners.
Like you're able to recover.
Very good aerobic
and
base.
shuttle that lactate.
You got it.
Yeah, at a certain point. Basically, you're recovering when everyone else is.
The best metaphor I heard was you cannot build a beautiful house on sand. So it's like you need to have a really good aerobic base. And then after, and this is, people don't want to hear this, it takes years. This isn't like you don't do this for 6 months and you're like, boom, man, I'm like an aerobic monster right now. You're going to get better, but it does not happen in 6 months.
I think that's why you see these like basically kids that are targeted that develop into these really good athletes because it's like
they started when they were 10.
So long.
It does.
And I tell my high school that kids this, I was like, your biggest weakness is aerobic capacity.
Yeah.
It's not speed.
No.
It's like
you can all run faster 400 meters.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
You and I both know if I was to hop into one of your 8x400 workouts with these kids, there's a good chance I can hang on.
No, they can. I mean, they can
fine.
all. I mean, sub 60s, no problem.
Yeah.
It's just the problem. You know, they haven't had the years of
exactly
easy distance and
all boiled down and layers pulled back of the onion. Be patient.
Yeah.
That was one of the best quotes I heard from one of these podcasts talking about this method is it is about being, if you can't be patient, cool, go polarized.
Do something else.
You're going to get some short-term benefits. You might have a little bit of fun racing. Odds are you're probably going to end up injured. Sorry, that's just like, I'm a PT. I see too many people come in with these issues. And I'm like, you're probably going to end up injured at some point. But
for the triathlete, is that
the triathletes for sure
runner
going to be injured after it. Yeah, runner definitely. Cyclists, I would say, would get burned out quicker.
Yeah.
Because I was talking with David about this. Is like VO2, like you said, VO2 work is hard. It's valuable in short doses, and I use it very sparingly throughout the year. But I will still do VO2 work. But it is, I mean, I got like 2 VO2 blocks the entire year. Like that's 52 weeks. I'm doing like 2 weeks worth of VO2 work.
What about the ever popular sweet spot training from Training or Trainer Road?
Sweet spot training is pretty close on to a Norwegian method, but I think I actually, from what was the Trainer Road sweet spot range, I brought my wattage down in those efforts a little bit because I felt like it was a little too close to LT2.
Gotcha.
And then when they really, I mean, some of those workouts get to like 4 by 20 minutes. You're pretty, I mean, 4 by 20 minutes at LT2 is not happening. I don't care who you are. That's, I mean, unless you're Pogača, you're not throwing out 4 by 20 minutes at LT2.
That hurts.
Yeah. That's a ton of pain. That's a lot of pain.
Just 2 of them.
Yeah.
That hurts.
4 by 20 minutes for me would be like a little over, like if somebody gave me like, hey, do 4 by 20 minutes and I want you to get a lot of value out of this, I would do it in between my LT1 and LT2, probably at that 50 percentile.
So kick your ego out the door. With respect to the numbers that you want to go out and tell everybody that, you know, my FTP is X and then train in a realistic zone and just go do the work.
And you'll see better race results. You will over time. You got to be patient, but you will see that all of a sudden, one, you'll also realize you don't feel as tanked with training, which I think is the most important thing. Because also, if you're somebody listening to this and you got kids in a job, you can't be tanked all the time. No. You're not an Olympian. You can't go lay on the couch for 8 hours and recover. You got to like go take the kids out and do something.
True that.
Yeah.
Cool. This was fun. I'm going to look into this a little bit more. And Evan, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yeah,
So.
I need to keep on following up on this too. I'm on a dive right now. It's fun. We do with the next topic. And actually, I'd love to see if people are actually interested in this. If you're not, that's fine. Say it. You're not. Talking about the lactate shuttle is really interesting topic.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because this answers a question that I know everybody's a hot topic. Is like, why did Lance have a lower VO2, but he was so fast? There's an answer there. There is. Yeah.
Well, also wasn't that low though, was it?
Not compared to the best. He even will say in interviews he had a very, as he called it once, I heard him call it a pedestrian VO2, which is hilarious. It was anything but pedestrian. Yeah. But it was not remarkable. Same thing with Galen Rupp, another great runner locally.
Yeah.
Nothing stupendous
a little bit
about
more of a stronger understanding of lactate shuttling at that
point.
point.
Ferrari had a very good understanding of what matters. Yeah.
So Evan, how's your coaching program going? You're working with some athletes.
Going well.
Do you have any openings? I
do have a few openings actually right now. I do have a few openings. I've really been enjoying shifting my career a little bit. And I would say right now, from how many people I have, I probably have 4 openings going into 2023. I'll say 4.
Cool.
Yep.
So if you're listening, you're interested, maybe
there you go.
Maybe you can hit up Evan.
We can pretend like I'm not Italian too. We'll pretend like I'm Norwegian, and this is why I know all these things. Yeah.
We gotta give you a new last name.
My skin tone would say that. Yeah.
We got to adapt the price to something.
Evan Madsen.
Evan Bryson. Evan Bryson. All right, let's jump into one last thing. Matt, you want to go first?
Yes. I don't know what to talk about. I posted a video last week about the new Wahoo kicker. It's called I don't know what they want to call it. They
V6.
The V6, but sometimes they'll call it by the year. 2022 Wahoo kicker, or sometimes they'll do V5, V6. I think V6 is what I kind of did in the title.
Officially, when I got all of the information, they called it version 6 or V6 for short.
Yeah, and it has Wi-Fi now as the big announcement. It also does this erg easy ramp thing, which you would actually like. So like if you ever get into some sort of like erg situation, you're in a workout or whatever, and it's like erg, because that's what you do. You have to go to the bathroom, you get off or whatever, and you get back on. You can't you can't. It's like locked.
Terrible. You have to turn your erg mode off, get back up to speed, and then turn it back on. Yeah.
So now what it'll do is it'll ease you back up.
Oh.
It's very nice.
That's actually very, very useful.
So the Wi-Fi, they're claiming that it's about a quarter of a second faster in terms of how fast it interacts with the app. So for racing,
faster and more reliable, more stable, less dropouts.
Yep.
So lots of little things. Also costs a little more.
$100 more.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that. I'd be shocked if it didn't.
I would have pushed them to go the other. It could be, but when you've got the likes of Zwift bringing their own trainer to market at $500, I mean, granted, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles.
No, that's a really good point.
The problem with that Zwift hub is it's. Here's the thing. I don't think that that's going to be as nice of a trainer. It's just not going to be.
No, but it rendered the snap obsolete. I mean, that's going away. And then we've got the kicker core that's effectively close to the same thing.
That's the thing. Is I think it is much more of a kicker core competitive option. So if you're into indoor cycling, you're probably going to spend some money and get something a little nicer maybe.
Yeah. Are you going to spend $400 more to get a kicker core over the Zwift?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I would do.
My younger self wouldn't have. I would have been grabbing the cheapest option.
Would you spend $800 more to get that kicker?
I think that's the big jump. It's like you're either going to spend $500 or over $1,000, or it's really like $1,200 or whatever. I mean, that's a kind of like those are your choices.
That $1,000 just marketing to guys.
No, it's
around already. I mean,
still $100 cheaper than the Tax Neo, but
I know.
The Tax Neo price just blows my mind.
It's a nice trainer. I have it at my house. It's just not. It's not nicer than the Wahoo kicker. Do you have a kicker or
the
kicker
kicker's
core?
great. I have a kicker.
You have a regular kicker?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good. It's an excellent choice.
No complaints.
It has to do, I think, the most with the flywheel weight.
Yeah,
it is very heavy. It's very heavy.
My theory on like when trainers feel good, you're like, it's the flywheel weight.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't disagree with you. So yeah, I've got one I haven't ridden it yet. It's actually just set it up this morning on my wife's bike and going to get her riding on it. And then I'll at some point in time maybe jump on her bike just to
sneak your bike on there sometime.
Yeah.
Except for it's got the wrong cassette, right?
Yeah. I'll figure something out though. Okay. But I just want to feel how it feels. And I've been riding the kicker bike and I've quite enjoyed that.
Oh yeah.
The new one's supposed to be the same concept with the speed ramping and the Wi-Fi. It's supposed to have, it's supposed to be a little bit quieter. It makes a little bit of like the spaceship noise. It's not bad. It's not loud by any means at all, but it sounds like a little bit of a spaceship. And that on the new one evidently is gone. And there might be other little software tweaks that this one is going to.
But for the most part, this is my question because I have no idea, but the new big Wahoo bike that they sell, what did they call it? The kicker bike?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That one is mostly software updates and
ish. Yeah. I don't know what they did to change the noise in terms of like how.
Right.
It's like virtually quiet now.
I just don't know.
$300 more though.
They cost. Oh man.
They raised the price on that. It was like I think it was.
Those are expensive, right? They're like $2,000.
I think it was like $600 to $3,600 to $3,900 now. So it might even be $400. I got to go double check. But I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, here's another question for you. How many people do you know that are into the triathlon and cycling community who don't have a smart trainer?
Yeah, we're at peak.
It's saturated out there.
Saturation.
Yeah.
And they're not innovating. They're not doing things that are crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to have the fill in the blank because it's got this.
If I was one of those companies, I would find a way to drop that price where I could hit a whole new market.
that's what Zwift did.
I'd want to hit up. Yeah. And that was super smart.
And I think they're going to crush once they figure out
they're gonna really crush.
They need to figure out some accuracy issues, but once they do that, I think they're good.
But let's be honest, if you're like
that's software, they'll figure it out.
If you're like me when I was 19 and I was back on just a fluid trainer, I just basically got from the shop that I worked at. Like if you're that kid who's like, I really want to do online cycling, I can only afford something like 200, 300, 400, but like at most, I don't care if it's accurate. I'm just pumped. I'm on Zwift at that point.
One cool thing that they did add that I kind of appreciate is the new odometer.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with that is I don't necessarily want to know an odometer. I want to know how many hours you rode it, because if you're riding on Zwift and you're going at 28 miles an hour at 180 watts,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. If it's more of like how much time you've spent on it, like
it's assuming like rotations and assuming a 700cc wheel. It's making some assumptions, but then it just gives you a real mileage. It's not
pulling it from Zwift.
Not pulling it from Zwift.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that split.
I know. That'd be funny.
I think Jake and I decided for me, at least I know it was, if there's a 20-mile ride, it's probably 18. I think is what we decided, right? So it was like 2 miles an hour per hour or 2 miles per hour or something like that.
Faster?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. So if like you're in real world, it
versus
says
Zwift world.
Yeah, if you're riding out on the road, it's 18 miles an hour. You jump on Zwift for the same effort, it's 20.
Oh.
So
that was gonna be my guess. Was about 2 miles an hour. Yeah.
It depends on where you ride on Zwift, right?
Oh yeah, you can make Zwift way slower than real life if you wanted to.
That's what I was like. I was thinking that when I was testing that odometer, I was like, I'm just gonna ride out to Zwift and never come down. I'll never go down. It'll just be like, Matt has ridden this trainer for 3 miles the entire time he's ever been here.
Oh, that's fun. Cool. Well, that was a good video, Matt. Another
video. I got to figure out what's next. I've got I have a whole bunch of products that are just in the can that needs to be put together. A lot of work.
That's what happens when you're famous, man.
Evan, one last thing.
Racing this weekend. That is it.
That's going to be fun to watch.
I am excited.
Can people follow you? Is that going to be one of those things?
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be video of this race. I don't think it'll be on Ironman now. So we'll see.
Who's going to win this race? Have you seen the starting list?
It depends on who shows up.
You haven't seen the starting list?
That starting list is 42 guys, and I have no idea who on that list is actually going to show, because we just had a lot of racing in a short time period.
Yep.
So it's who shows up, who's healthy, who wants to win, because it's going to be a tough day with the heat.
One more time, how many people are in the race?
42 on the start list. I bet there won't be 42 in the race.
Call your shot. Where do you land?
14th.
14th?
14th. I'm
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good guess.
Matt, over or under?
Or
even money?
No, it's going to be under.
Think so?
It's going to have a good day. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to have a good day.
I want you to have a good day. I'm going to take the under too.
I'm excited. Okay.
I like the number 12. 12 sounds good.
I really like the sound of a top 10, but Cassie's made me be a little bit more realistic, because in Santa Cruz had very, very high hopes for that race. I was a little bummed after.
I think you need to limit your matches on the bike, and then just be like,
I'm going to run fast.
Go for broke on, after halfway through the run, just be like, I'm going to run down a whole bunch of people. And it's going to be
that's kind of the plan.
It's going to be so much fun to do it that way.
Yeah. I need to catch a group on the bike. I'm going to play it smart then, and then we're running fast. So,
yeah.
Yep.
No penalties, no timeouts.
No penalties. Oh my God, no penalties.
You don't really get penalties. That was a fluke.
Did you ever hear back from them on that, or did you just let it be?
No, just let it be.
It's pointless. Yeah,
too much anger there, and needed to just focus on this race. It was too close this race. I was like, we're just focusing on this next one.
Gotcha. All right, my one last thing, real quick, is that there is going to be a really fun cyclocross race this weekend out in Washougal, put on by Zone 5. It's one of the races of the Harvest Cross, and our good friend over there at Zone 5, Scott Schultz, has got something pretty special up his sleeve, and I think that's going to be one that everybody's going to want to go out and check out, watch, be a part of, and it's going to be out there at the Washougal Motocross track. They've got full autonomy to do whatever they want out there. They've got the full venue. They've got the full PA system, the full everything. And I think Scott's got something.
I think Scott's all in on this one.
He is.
It's going to be good. Good job, Scott.
Puts on good races.
I got to see if I can fix my. I want to go out there on my gravel bike and ride this one.
Get yourself on the PA system then.
It's gonna be dry.
You could just go out there and ride a little bit. You don't have to do the racing.
Yeah, I went out there last year and did the same thing. Just watched and made a little video about it, and it was a ton of fun to be out there all day long. But anyway, that should be a fun one. So anyway, that is it for this week. We will be back next week with another one, and until then, bye for now.
right, so sharing the work now, that's the way to do it. Get together with some other folks. Hey, I got $5 for the winner of U3 next lap. $5 cash for the winner of that.